Good morning and welcome to Alabama Possible's 10th fall event. For all of you who've been involved for these 10 years, it's hard to believe that 10 years have come and gone so quickly. I'm Gwen Robinson, the Associate Dean of Economic Development for Jefferson State Community College. And on behalf of our presenting sponsors, Alabama Power, the University of Alabama System, Vulcan Value Partners, our co-hosts Ron Houston and Tony Smoke, and the Alabama Possible Board of Directors, which is chaired by Ms. Virginia Patterson, I am delighted to be here to support Alabama Possible and the great work they're doing to ensure that all Alabamians have the opportunity to lead prosperous lives by breaking down barriers to prosperity in Alabama through education, collaboration, and advocacy. We all know that COVID-19 has accelerated employers' needs for workers with valuable post-secondary education credentials. At the same time, disruptions to in-person school counseling and family income have made the transition from high school to college more challenging than ever. Your support of Alabama Possible increases the number of first-generation college students, which is very special to me and my institution, and students from low-income families pursuing a college degree or other higher education credential. This year, Alabama Possible is fortunate to have as co-chairs of this event Mr. Tony Smoke, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Economic Development for Alabama Power, again, one of our presenting sponsors, and Ron Houston, Alabama Possible Board Member and President and CEO of HRG Consulting. Let's give a virtual round of applause for these hardworking co-chairs and thank them. Now, representing Alabama Power this morning is Mr. Houston Smith, Vice President of Governmental Affairs. Please enjoy a message from Houston.
Good morning. My name is Houston Smith. I work in Governmental Affairs at Alabama Power, and I have the privilege of serving as a board member for Alabama Possible. I come to you today from my kitchen, standing in for my colleague, Mr. Tony Smoke, who is Head of Economic Development at Alabama Power and also a co-chair for today's event. On behalf of Tony, all of the employees at Alabama Power, and myself, I just want to say thank you for joining today and for providing your time and your resources in support of Alabama Possible and our mission to remove barriers to prosperity. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it has taught us that we are all inextricably linked. And that's important for today's discussion, as we realize that if anyone in our community, any one of us is struggling, then we are all struggling. So I hope you enjoy the conversation between two powerful leaders in our community, two impressive professionals, Mrs. Bobbie Knight and Mrs. Florie. Again, thank you for joining.
A special thanks to my good friend Houston. On behalf again of our presenting sponsors, the University of Alabama System, Alabama Power, and again, Vulcan Value Partners, thank you so much for tuning in this morning. And I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, all who have provided support to this event, for investing in the future of our great state. Alabama Possible relies on the generosity of its donors to further our mission. With the help of the Alabama Power AV team and Swell, giving has never been easier than it is now. Simply follow the prompts on your screen to make a donation with your secure electronic gift via text or online. We've made it very easy for you this morning. If at any time you have technical difficulties during this event, you know that you will not reach out to me, but rather email info@swellfundraising.com for a representative standing by to assist you. And I've just received a very special message from our board chair, Ms. Virginia Patterson. The Alabama Possible Board of Directors has offered to match gifts up to $5,000 for donations made during this event. So please make your donation so that match gift can take place. And you did hear that correctly. It will be doubled if you choose to donate right now before 9 o'clock this morning. It's easy. Just follow the prompt on your screen. It's always uplifting to hear from our young people. And this morning is no exception to that. Many high school seniors in Alabama are facing multiple barriers to post-secondary education access. And Denise Granaris Hanna is no exception. Now join me as we hear her story.
Hi everyone, my name is Denise Guarneros Hanan. I graduated from Park Crossing High School in June, and now I'm a freshman at Trenton State Community College. I'm majoring in business administration, and after I graduated from Trenton, I transferred to Auburn University at Montgomery. I've always wanted to go to college. My dad received his master's degree in quality engineering, so he's definitely always been a role model for me. My biggest hurdle in getting into college was filling out the FAFSA. For months, I tried submitting it, but an error will always come up. I got in contact with many of the FAFSA representatives, and none of them could help me. I tried every single option that they gave me, but none of them worked. I reached out to my Gear Up sponsor, Ms. Jennifer Rogers, who then directed me to Alabama Possible. After months and months of trying, I finally got her from a college transition peer advisor at the Alabama Goes to College help desk. I'll forever be grateful for Alabama Possible because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have been able to attend college. After I graduate, I want to open up my own business as an esthetician and help people feel comfortable and beautiful in their own skin. I really hope other students will take advantage of the FAFSA and find ways to go to college. It was hard work, but it was worth it.
Thank you, Denise. I'm constantly amazed at the resilience of our young people. Denise is what it's all about. With many students facing educational inequality and social and racial disparity, so many students manage to not only survive, but yes, they flourish. Alabama Possible makes it possible for every student to have the opportunity to reach their fullest potential. It's easy. Your gift will open doors for more students to obtain critical post-secondary credentials after high school, and your gift, again, will be double this morning, so please give now. Alabama Possible is excited to introduce our new executive director, Chandra Scott. Ms. Scott brings a wealth of experience from her role as director of strategic outcomes from the Mobile Area Education Foundation in Mobile, Alabama. She has provided strategic direction and branding as an advocate for education equality for more than 18 years. Please join me now in welcoming Ms. Scott as she delivers a special message via a pre-recorded video.
Good morning. I'm Chandra Scott, and there aren't enough emojis or memes to express how excited I am to know you chose to join us this morning for our much anticipated breakfast and conversation. As the new executive director of Alabama Possible, I want to first take a moment and thank every partner and sponsor that supports us in equipping high school counselors with the resources and tools they need to successfully guide their students to and through post-secondary pathways. Our Alabama Goes to College campaign opens the door to post-secondary access through FAFSA and college application completion. Because of you, we are afforded the opportunity to teach the next generation the power of advocacy through student fellowship experiences. We thank you for enabling us to travel to various counties in person and now virtually to hear the voice of Alabamians through engaging conversations focused on breaking down barriers to prosperity. Alabama Possible's ability to convene and form strategic partnerships has evolved into the creation of a defined ecosystem of K-12, higher education, business and industry, philanthropic and community agency leaders known as the Alabama College Attainment Network, or Alabama CAN. This collaboration is removing silos to create better policy and practice that connects education and workforce. For over 18 years, I've had the privilege of leading various education reform initiatives in Mobile and its surrounding area. As the co-designer and facilitator for the state's first regional post-secondary attainment goal, known as 75,000 degrees, I fully understand how system change paves a path to success for all learners. Whether it's a high school senior who can't afford a college application fee being connected to resources that afforded him to attend a four-year college, or maybe it's an adult who desires a path back to college to complete a degree they started 20 years ago. Regardless of a learner's path, system change only happens when there is a clearly defined goal, shared responsibility of that goal, a group mobilized around the goal. But one critical piece to this collaborative impact approach is the importance of having someone, or what some may refer to as a backbone agency, constantly assessing the landscape and connecting all partners and stakeholders. This is what I'm most excited about on our path forward at Alabama Possible. In the great words of Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Since 1993, Alabama Possible has shown time and time again its mission is to eradicate poverty in Alabama. This year has brought uncertainty, unrest, and has highlighted existing inequalities and barriers to education. As the new leader of Alabama Possible, today I am calling on you to support us and join us in changing Alabama's narrative from being the sixth poorest state in the country. Let's be known as the state who met the governor's goal of having 500,000 qualified Alabamians to fulfill our ever-growing workforce by 2025. To do this, we must become a state who has one of the highest FAFSA completion rates, a state with policies and practices that are aligned to support post-secondary access and success, and a state that advocates equality for all, not some. Now, with the spirit of collaboration, energy centered on the possibilities, and the will to make it happen, Alabama can provide economic opportunities and educational attainment for everyone. I am excited about our path forward, but it can't be done without support from our donors, friends, and partners like you. Again, I thank you for joining us today and hope you are inspired to make a donation. Gwen, I send it back to you as we prepare for the moment we've all been waiting for.
Thank you, Chandra. I don't know about you, but I think Alabama Possible is in good hands. And let me also, a point of personal privilege, thank you and your incredible staff. It's been a joy to work with you on this event. So, you just heard it. It's easier now than ever to give. Please look at the numbers at the bottom of your screen, and May will assist you if you have any need. And again, remember, your gift will be doubled. Now for the moment I think you've all been waiting for. I hope you've all been waiting for. Our special guest today, Ms. Bobbie Knight, president of Miles College, Ms. Ann Florie, former executive director of Leadership Birmingham, are longtime friends, and each has put her own particular stamp, I can assure you, on our community and our state. First, Bobbie. While at Alabama Power, she was vice president of the Birmingham division, Alabama Power's largest division. After her retirement, if you know Bobbie, she didn't stop there. She also has done incredible work in our community as chair of the board of managers for Birmingham Times Media Group. And in 2018, she was appointed to the Birmingham Airport Authority, among many other community events and boards. But in July of 2019, Bobbie jumped right back in, and she was tapped as interim president of Miles College, making her the first person to lead, the first woman to lead the college. But she was then named president in March of 2020. Ann Florie was a former executive director of Leadership Birmingham. She served on the water board of the city of Birmingham, the water board. She's also a founding director of Region 2020 and a member of the executive committee for the Birmingham Business Alliance. She served 10 years on the Mountain Brook Board of Education and is a past president of the Junior League. She also served as Representative Arthur Davis's transition team and was a founding member of the board of the Children's Trust Foundation. She also served a year as interim executive director of the Alabama School of Fine Arts. I could go on much longer, I can assure you, about these two incredible leaders, but please join me in welcoming President Bobbie Knight and Ann Florie. Let's get right to it. I'm going to start with you, Bobbie, and thank you for welcoming us into your house today. So, Bobbie, you've had an incredibly successful career in the corporate community. You distinguished yourself at Alabama Power and with work in the community. So, I got to ask the question that I think would be on a lot of folks' mind this morning. Why? You could have simply walked away, enjoyed retirement, maybe travel, but now president of Miles College. What led you to that?
So, thank you, Gwen, and good morning to my dear friend Ann Florie. So I was happily retired, and and I was traveling. And I did not seek this out. I was serving on the Board of Trustees, and they came to me when the president announced that he was leaving, going to a college in Atlanta. They asked me to consider serving as interim. I was shocked. Well, why me? And initially they said 9 months, and then they changed it to 12 months. And then in March 5th of 2020, they asked me to become permanent. But I really can't say why I did it other than I felt that I could be helpful in some ways, and helpful in raising money, helpful in raising the profile of the institution, and helpful in ensuring that our students had a chance, and a chance to be successful. And that's what I've been about. I tell everybody that I had no idea I was going to fall in love with the students at Miles College, and I have. But someone did tell me that, General Charles Krulak. He was one of the first people I reached out to say, hey, am I crazy for doing this? And he encouraged me to do it and said, you know what, Bobbie, you're going to love it, and they're going to love you. So he really did encourage me. And, you know, after a lot of prayer and talking with my husband, decided that this was the right thing at the right time for me.
Well, Bobbie, I've been paying attention, and those goals that you've had, I see you checking them off quickly. And before we leave, I'd like to know if you could give me Sir Charles's phone number back to the fundraising. And I'm going to shift to you now.
Okay.
Similar question. You had a distinguished career as executive director of Leadership Birmingham, and then almost immediately upon retiring, you served as an interim executive director of the Alabama School of Fine Arts. Same question. What led you to that in that direction?
You know, I guess my question, Bobbie, would be, how could I not have done it when they asked? Like you, I was not looking for a job. I think we're very untraditional choices. First of all, we're the first females. We're not educators.
Right.
We're not PhDs, which I think is unusual. But I had spent years, and I guess my thought process about it was a little different, and complicated, realizing that working in education, my 10 years in Mountain Brook, so I spent the early part of my life involved in education efforts and education policy, so I understood it. I also had spent years watching people come to the realization in Leadership Birmingham that education was one of the most important issues that we were facing and needed to work on. And those were always very sobering days, Education Day, and I think were the underpinning of every other issue that we deal with in the community. And so to me, it was sort of I felt like I had an experience and a skill set like you that could be useful in a transition. Mm-hmm. I remember that I called you at one point when I realized we both started about the same time and said, what are we doing? I mean, you know, they had the audacity to ask us to do this, and we both just sort of jumped in it. And I thought it was really funny that we were doing it at the same time. And I had this thought that when Sheila Blair left, or sometime in which she was at Leadership Birmingham, who was the founding director, she had written an op-ed piece that was somewhat controversial at the time, and about people retiring and sort of the brain drain that happened because people were either totally disengaging or they were moving and leaving the community, and that you were losing that experience and that expertise. And I've never forgotten that. And I guess I also at that time watched Mike Warren, who, when he retired from Energen, step in at Children's Hospital, and I think he had a very important skill set, also a very untraditional choice, but had a skill set that they needed at the time. And so I just thought, you know, why not? I had no intentions of, they were in the middle of a search and actually hired someone in November, but it was an educator, obviously, who couldn't come until the end of the year. So you know, it was a great year until COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And COVID sort of threw us all into, you know, survival mode. So,
thank you, Ann.
somewhat similar.
I think we now understand why Alabama Possible reached out to these two incredible leaders. I want to shift the conversation now from a little bit of a personal choices and why you're doing the work that you're doing to a little more serious subject, if we can. So I don't think anyone would argue, unless you've been asleep for the entire year of 2020 so far, that we find ourselves in incredibly difficult times with a pandemic, political and social unrest across our country. So, and again, I want to start with you on this question, Bobbie, and then I want to hear from you as well, Ann. So what do you see are barriers to racial justice and equality in education? And I know we could talk about that for a very long time, but if you could think about that and let us know your thoughts.
You know, maybe the first question, Bobbie, is do you think there are barriers?
Oh, I
True.
do. Yeah, I do think there are barriers. I think economics is a huge barrier. Like Jeff State, we have a lot of first-time college students at Miles College, and what I believe levels the playing field for students all over the nation, but particularly in Alabama, are opportunities for corporations to open their doors for internships, number one, and for students to learn and have an opportunity to participate in something other than just going to class. I think broadening their horizons and giving them opportunities to learn about industry, whatever field they plan to go into, but to be able to be ingrained in that culture and learn more about what it's like in the real world. It's different. It's not textbook. It is incredibly different, so that's one thing. But let me say that I worry every day about my students, particularly my black male students, and what has happened this year with the social justice movement across the country. The irony of it, that in early 1960s, the SGA and students on the Miles College campus were talking about the same issues back then and marching down to downtown Birmingham to protest what was going on in this country and in this state. And here we are 57, maybe almost 60 years later, and the same thing's happening. And I worry about my students, I worry about their safety, but I worry also about their opportunity. And so everything I do, Gwen, and I think what, and Ann would agree with this, what Alabama Possible does is helps level the playing field. I don't know where my students would be if they didn't have assistance in filling out their financial aid forms. It's crazy. I know the government is trying to simplify that form, but if you're a first-time college student, your parents, and you may be from a single-parent household, but they don't have a clue how to fill these forms out. And Alabama Possible makes it possible for students to actually apply and get financial aid to go to college. But I got to go back to your original question. I think business leaders all over the state of Alabama, I hope they will take an opportunity to look at students from colleges like Miles, from junior colleges, from all over the state, and say, yeah, these are our future employees, so let's invest. And I don't know what that investment needs to look like. I think there are a lot of discussions around what that needs to look like. But invest in your future employees by partnering with colleges and universities in the state.
Thank you, Bobbie. Ann, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, let me take that question a little bit different way. I think there is racial inequality and inequity within education as a system. I think it's being very intentional about who you hire. If you look at faculty in systems, they tend to either be black or white. And I think it's being intentional about that. It's being intentional about giving kids a space to have tough conversations. And first of all, recognizing that they have the experiences that you're talking about when they are not in school, but they also have them in school. And so I think there's a lot we can do about what we teach kids, how we teach them to have conversations. I mean, we better all start listening and learning to listen. And I think you have to teach people that, but I think you have to give them the space to do it. And ASFA was a very, very diverse system, but there's still, those are tough conversations, even in a very diverse system where kids work together and you know, live together. ASFA has a dorm like you have dorms. But we also worried about kids in that, so.
Thank you, Ann. You've both mentioned in your remarks and in your conversation the business and corporate community, and you both have a lot of experience. Bobbie, you working in the corporate community for so long, and Ann, your work with business leaders throughout the state, but certainly the Birmingham region. Let's talk and dig a little deeper there, if we may. There's conversation, and you may not agree with this, but there's a lot of conversation, I think, and feeling that the educational community, and I say that broadly, and the business community seems to be becoming more aligned than ever. That may not be your opinion, but I want to ask you both that question. Is that a fact, and what do you see there around that? So really just a little more play on the conversation that you're having.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I mean, obviously there is, and sorry to jump ahead of you, Bobbie.
That's okay.
But we do that all the time anyway, don't we?
They are friends.
We've worked together on a lot of things over the years, some of which people don't know about.
That's right.
But
We don't want them to know either.
right, we don't want them to know. But I think that there's a lot of that space has become, obviously workforce has become the issue. I mean, the topic, the way we frame all the discussions that we have. And I think that there is, it's very crowded in that space. And so I think there are a lot of acronyms out there working, and they're all doing different things. And I think there is an attempt right now, and there are corporate leaders at the table trying to pull that together, and public officials trying to pull that together into a cohesive, more collaborative effort. I just think it's long, hard work. My concern is that it's messy and it takes time, and a long time, and you don't see immediate results. And I think that, you know, will they stick with it is my question. But I also think it's a little still fragmented.
I agree, Ann, yes and no. But what I want to do is give you some examples of some things that are working. If you have to look at Apple and IBM and Google, and their models for getting into the educational system and ensuring that there's talent that fits within their future workforce is working. IBM, in fact, we signed an agreement with IBM for $2 million worth of training for our students. That includes data science, AI, and some other stuff. And it's free to our students. They don't have to pay for this, but they get the opportunity to learn something. What's in it for IBM? They get the opportunity to look at our students as potential employees. That's great. We participating now with the Tennessee State HBCU C² initiative with Apple, and they're doing the same thing. They're providing equipment and opportunities for learning, for coding. They're doing that all over the place. But to have it here for our students, those are the models, or two of the models that I think are working. And I would really like to see other corporations maybe that are closer here in town. Alabama Power Company is doing something very similar. They've reached out to me and other colleges and universities, but particularly colleges that they have not heavily recruited in before, and they're going to be recruiting here, which is fabulous. But you know what? I've got to make sure that we are creating the student that they need, because I've been on the end where I had to hire employees and go out and recruit people to come to work there, and it's difficult sometimes because the skill set or the education doesn't match what the need is. So we've got to make sure we do that.
Well, and let me go back to the K-12 part. Actually, we have to start much earlier than
Sure.
that. In my opinion, at least locally, I don't think K-12, I think most of the efforts are focused on sort of 18 to 24-year-olds. I don't think there's a lot for older workforce, and I don't think, I'm not sure. I think that K-12 is at the table in a significant way, and that's no one's fault. It's just that it's hard because who speaks for them? So you have...
But they need to be at the table.
They need to be at the table,
and
they need to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't feel they are. I will tell you that I spent a year with superintendents all over Central Alabama, and in the meetings that we had, no one was ever talking about workforce. Now, there may be people at a different level making those points and carrying that message, and maybe that comes from the state telling them what they're going to focus on, but I didn't feel that, I mean, they're not in the workforce conversation, in my opinion.
That's a huge disconnect.
Yeah.
Because
and there may be people that
at,
disagree with that. I just never saw it in my year.
I think you're right. You got to look at what the end is.
Yeah.
The end game is young people. This is the future. These people are our future, and we've got to ensure that they have the skill sets they need to be successful. They're going to be running the businesses of the future. So K-12, you have to focus on that. It's a big disconnect if you don't.
Wow. One last question, and then we're going to take a couple of questions. I think we have time from the audience this morning. So I've known you both for a long time and have worked with you on many projects. It's interesting, as I was listening, you both seem in some ways as excited today as some of those first meetings that we've been in, and which also makes me excited again to continue this fight that we're all in, for lack of a better word, for equality and for justice and the opportunities that education allow. Quick last question. Could be quick, it could not be quick, but I'll leave that to the two of you. So where does your energy to keep going and keep fighting and keep working in the spaces that you both are? I started these questions with, why are you doing it? Why do you keep doing it? Where's it come from?
I think women by nature think communally, if that's a word. And I think that, it's what always gives me energy. It's about the people. It was when I was at ASFA, I'm like you, I fell in love. I did not expect to spend a lot of time internally. I expected to spend most of my time externally, because that's really why they had hired me, like you, to raise the visibility. But I made sure that I walked the halls every day so that the kids saw me and saw a woman in that position, and they just totally energized me. The whole atmosphere was so exciting because of things that were going on every day, and I was in and out of classrooms, and I miss that. I will miss that, but it gave me sort of this added, like, I was back to my roots of thinking that education was really important, and that maybe if you focus on an issue, because I've spent a lot of time, like you, dealing with a lot of issues, and very globally, but you know, to me, that's where it all comes home. And that's where it needs to be, and it's about kids. And I think that, you know, I don't know, I guess we're in an interesting time in the country. And I think that look, we had regardless of how, you know, and this isn't a political statement, but regardless of where you are on an election, look at how many people turned out to vote. Something we've talked about for years, the low voter turnout. Well, you didn't see it. And just the excitement of people to be civic engagement. I know you work on that here. Mm-hmm. I've spent my whole life working on that. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an opportunity right now. I mean, I think I got energized by the people who just sort of came out of the woodwork to, I don't know, I was thinking about Ruby Bridges. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about her, who was the child who integrated the school in New Orleans in the Norman Rockwell photograph and, painting. And her mother died yesterday. And so last night I was thinking about us being here, and I was thinking about that happening and how many people, how long it takes, how long change takes. And the fact that it energized me that so many people have come out to make things happen that, you know.
Yep. You're right.
Thank you. President Knight, the same question.
So when I think about the possibilities that are out there, you know, I was a child of the 60s, and my life, if you put bookends on my life, in 1962 I was 7 years old when the 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed. And 57 years later, because I'm 64, I think it's 57 years later.
I'm a lot older.
The first female vice president-elect in this, who looks like me. In two ways, she's a woman and she's African American. And for that amount of time to go by, and yep. You're right, it takes a lifetime for change sometimes to occur. But there are so many possibilities out there, and I want my students to, yes. I want them to be able to grab hold to them. You know, somebody helped me along the way, and I believe that I can help them. I truly believe I can, and that's why I continue to do what I do.
And you know, I like you when I was very emotional, and I was surprised that I was so emotional, that Kamala Harris was on a ticket and as a vice president, and I was surprised that it hit me that way, and I think I realized that I had been shooting way too low, you know.
It could have been us, couldn't it?
Well, not that, but that I just didn't think it was possible, and that I had just sort of put that aside in some weird way. But you're right. I mean, if you look around, there's so much work to be done, and there's so many people who helped me, just like you,
right?
And people we can help. And as Kamala Harris said, always says in her speeches, you may be the first one to be there, but you won't be the last.
You won't be the last.
Right? And so I think that, you know, us being in the positions we're in, I mean, in the other places we've been in the community in which we have been one of a few women in a room, I hope that our being there and participating creates a pathway for all the kids we're talking about and other people in the community. So
I think anyone who knows either of you would agree that it absolutely could have been either one of you. I'm not betting against you on anything.
We don't doubt that.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I can assure you of that.
I think there are a lot of other people that would think that was not possible, but it never occurred to me.
No, I'm in your corners. We've got a question that continues to come in many different ways, so I want to ask just one last question, and this is from our audience, and so if you'll bear with me. Where do you see an organization like Alabama Possible being the highest use in improving educational opportunities and prospects for economic development and those who need it the most? Great question.
So I'm going to let you close, okay?
Okay.
And So y'all, I have to tell you, Aunt Florie and I used to talk on the phone from like midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning, and we talked about everything in the world and everything that was wrong in Birmingham and everything that was right and what needs to happen. And I think in this case, we both would agree that what needs to happen is bridging that gap that Ann talked about earlier with K-12 and business and workforce development. And ensuring, I think, anything organizations can do to help students, help our educational system in the state of Alabama. I continue to be dismayed about the rankings that I see for the state of Alabama and some of our school systems across the state. It's disheartening, and it doesn't need to be. And I think organizations that put themselves out there to really help make change and facilitate changes, but also improve the educational system and the lives of young people, you know, that's what's got to happen.
You know, we've spent most of our life working collaboratively, and I think that comes naturally to us. And I think Alabama Possible has been sort of a convener in that, and a partner in that collaboration, and I think that needs to continue. I also think that something that gets overlooked is that it's not always about scholarship dollars. I mean, it is ultimately, obviously, but there are other things in education, and this is less true, I guess, for you, but in public K-12, you know, everyone has a right to come to your school, and there's no, there is not a, you know, I mean, you take what walks in, who walks in, and everything they bring with them. And so
that's the same here, because we're an open campus. We take every student as they come.
And I think that, you know, the fact that you've got to invest in, and I think I can see Alabama Possible, and I think they have been an advocate for funding for certain things and also for professional development around counselors, guidance counselors in every school, having mental health counselors in every school, having nurses in every school. And I think we're headed there, but there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done because kids can't take advantage of those opportunities. I mean, Alabama Possible has to work through a lot of people, but they can certainly be a catalyst for that happening in the training that needs to go on to make that happen, because there are a lot of challenges out there, including food insufficiency. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, there are tons of issues that make sure that a student's successful, that are barriers to success beyond money. You know, money ultimately is the determinant, and money has to pay for those things, right? Right, but anyway, I think Alabama Possible has a real role to play in that, and has played a role in that. So I appreciate what they do.
Wow. I wish we could talk longer, but I'm told that we have to wrap up by 9, so I'm going to follow the rules today. In the notes that I put together and staff helped me with, there's a statement that I'm supposed to read now that says, "I'm honored to share the stage with the two of you." I don't know that I shared the stage with you today, but I'm very glad to be here with you, two of my favorite leaders and heroes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you have done and continue to do.
We're glad to be here too.
So a big virtual round of applause. I'm sure you're all out there doing that, right? I mean, we're all still trying to figure that out. It's really my only regret today is that we're not in person. And my hope, and I know that these two leaders' hope, and all of yours, is that next year we're together again, but we'll have to wait and see. So the program staff at Alabama Possible, as you've heard, and as many of you know, works closely with high school educators from over 340 schools across our great state. These hardworking individuals have had to work harder during this pandemic, as you all know, trying to equip their students with the tools that they need to succeed in high school and beyond. If educators have not been our heroes in the past, I think we all are recognizing that they should have been and that they are now. Alabama Possible provides these educators with resources to help them assist their students. So next up, we're going to hear from Bethany Jordan. She's a counselor at Meek High School in Winston County. Bethany.
Hi, I'm Bethany Jordan, and I'm the counselor at Meek High School, located in Winston County. I've worked with Alabama Possible for the last 4 years. The resources Alabama Possible provides helps not only myself, but our students as well. Students can benefit from tools and campaigns like Alabama Goes to College. Through this initiative, my students have access to webinars and real live help with filing the FAFSA. Alabama Possible supports schools and counselors like myself by offering trainings where we can get together and form a plan of how to reach students to promote a college-going culture, have them apply to colleges and universities, and get financial help. My job would be more challenging without the partnership of Alabama Possible.
Thank you, Bethany, and thanks for all you're doing. It's really inspiring to hear how our high school counselors across the state are pouring their hearts and their souls into making sure that students have the opportunities to be successful. As I said, they truly are our heroes. Did you know that many of our high school educators serve at a ratio of 1 educator to over 400 students? Let me repeat that. 1 educator to over 400 students for our counselors. So your gifts today, this morning, will provide valuable resources to these educators through online training, toolkits, webinars, and up-to-date data, all made possible by Alabama Possible, thanks to the generosity of folks like you today and the donors of this great organization. So please make your secure online gift this morning, and don't forget about the board match. Your gift will go twice as far. You know, you've all been great this morning. It's been a great honor for me to serve today as the MC, but I have a personal relationship and have been working with Alabama Possible for many years, so it's an added benefit for me. I see the great work that they do. My institution, Jefferson State, we're honored to work closely with them, so thank you for that. I appreciate the opportunity. So we'd like to share, though, one final message from one of our students, Janira Scott of Excel Day and Evening Academy. I'll now turn it to Ms. Scott.
Hi, my name is Janaya Scott, and I'm a senior at Excel Day and Evening Academy. And during the free college application week, I applied to a total of 22 colleges. And at this moment, I've got accepted into 10 of those colleges. I completed my free application for FAFSA about a couple weeks ago. And then at this moment, I'm looking to look for scholarships at the 10 colleges that I've got accepted into so far.
Thank you, Janaya, and I hope my institution is watching this morning as well. So, again, it's been a great morning. Young women like Janaya and students are really what this is all about. She's been accepted at 10 colleges, and Alabama Possible helps raise awareness about free college through free college application week and provides guidance on FAFSA applications. I think you've heard the FAFSA application is not easy, and many of you know that from your own experiences. We could not do this work without you today and going forward. You're our donors and our friends, and we most sincerely thank you. And if you're so moved, again, please make your donation. It's time today so that more students like Janaya can go to college. Alabama board member Ron Houston is president and CEO of HRG Consulting, helping churches and nonprofit organizations develop customized strategic business plans to support their mission. Ron serves as chair of Alabama Possible's Development Committee, a very important committee to all nonprofits, and he is the co-chair of our event today. Please now join me in enjoying a message from Ron.
Wow, what an amazing conversation between President Knight and Miss Ann Florie. I want to thank our co-chair for today's conversation, Mr. Tony Smoke. I'd like to thank our Alabama Possible Board of Directors and the amazing staff at Alabama Possible for all that they do. Here's my ask. If you've already given to Alabama Possible, we thank you tremendously for your support. If you haven't, I would ask that you would give some consideration of how you too financially can help and support the next generation of leaders that are here in Alabama. Look, our goal is very simple. It is to break down barriers for that next generation. So I ask that you would just give some consideration of how you too can help. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Ron. And again, I want to thank all of those who made today possible. And I think we're going to get some numbers. I know that they're working on those numbers pretty quickly because we want to see how well we did today. Again, another point of personal privilege. Thank you all for tuning in. Friends of Alabama Possible, thank you for what you're doing to make this organization successful. By the way, it's not 9 o'clock yet. So you still have an opportunity to give. I want you to please remember that your totals are doubled. And if I seem distracted, it's for a good reason. I'm getting some totals, and this is pretty phenomenal. So as of, with 10 minutes to go, $93,615. So I know you are aware of what I'm going to say next. Let's continue to work until 9 o'clock. I'm going to be leaving you, but you still can give until 9 o'clock. Let's make this 100,000 because 100,000 sounds a whole lot better than 93, don't you think? Again, it's been an honor to serve today as MC this great organization. Again, please continue to give, and I thank you for your time. Have a great day, and thanks for all you do.